Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I welcome you all to this virtual discussion. This is the first part of the Leaders Technology Discussion series that we have planned, and we'll be organizing this one every month. I would request now Shri Kamal Arora ji, Chairman of the ASSOCHAM Electronics and Components National Council, to kindly deliver the welcome address. Over to you, Kamal sir.
Thank you, Varun. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm privileged to be part of this very important discussion today, which is going to share best practices for the industrial sector with technology leaders. I think when we talk about industry, the fourth industrial revolution encompasses areas which are not normally classified as an industry. For example, smart cities. The As we go forward, there are too many devices which are going to get connected, which are going to provide a lot of automation to better outcomes. So these devices which are generating these data could be mobile devices, could be IoT gateways, could be edge computing, industrial control systems, sensors, and so on. And with the enhancement in the network from 5G, these are going to gain more importance as we go forward. The data which is getting generated out of these devices and sensors, etc., definitely bring enormous business value. What, however, is not clear at this point in time is how to best unlock its potential, which can be done through the kind of data which is getting in front of us from all these devices. Many IoT devices generate enormous amount of data during the course of applications and the operations of the various places. As these vectors continue to increase, it becomes more feasible to study and satisfy the requirements of a much wider array of innovative application at the edge of the network capable of driving a broader range of innovative business outcomes. IoT devices and edge computing platforms have the potential to automate every business process imaginable. And using machine and deep learning algorithms, these can be deployed at the very edge of the network, which basically helps to reduce the latency and can drive real-time outcomes in the industrial environment. If we talk about some of the reports, like Forrester Research talks about the total edge computing IoT market is expected to grow from roughly about $3 billion recorded in 2019 to $9 billion in 2024. Another reports talk about Industrial Revolution 4.0 driving business potential or economic values from such innovations to a tune of USD 11 trillion. Now, these algorithms, these data which are getting processed, definitely bring in optimizing business process in the real time. And everything from connected cars to innovative augmented and virtual reality applications depend on the ability to process and analyze these data in real time at edge. Just, it's mind-boggling. Just the connected car itself, the driverless car, which companies are trying to bring on the road and for commutation. Each car today generates a data of 4 terabyte in a day. Now, this as compared to 270 million Twitter's account user today produce just about 100 GB of data in a day. So think of that, one car as compared to that, giving 4 terabyte of data. That's the kind of, data which will get generated as we see, as these devices get deployed at various organizations and various places. In India, many organizations have embarked upon the journey to become 100% digital. There will be a need to adopt, automation in their businesses, edge computing, and so on and so forth in the near future. Gartner estimates that by 2025, a whooping 75% of enterprise-generated data will get created and processed outside the traditional, data centers or cloud, which will be essentially, through the gateways and the edge devices, etc. I think when used correctly, connected industries can result in efficiencies, new revenue streams, improved customer experiences, and even risk mitigations. Just to touch upon one kind of a example on such systems of system. Think of any campus having complete digitization around that. They are managing complete the facility, smart facility management systems, surveillance, the smart buildings around it, complete process automation, waste management, parking, and everything in the campus. That campus when expands, and there are so many campuses in a city, all of that is connected to various sensors and various devices to form give a complete citizen experience. Having smart electricity, smart grid, smart policing, smart water, smart gas, all of that. And all of this as a smart cities or digital cities, then connecting to digital nation. That becomes, a smart grid, entire nationwide command control center, nationwide security operation centers, smart agriculture, so on and so forth. So I think the systems of systems will get evolved. This will definitely bring in a lot of newer revenue streams, newer way of doing business, and as we go forward, a lot of such thing can help our industries to really be more efficient and bring in more revenue streams. Discuss that, I think, more and get the point of view from IBM, what they think of these and connected services. I would like to invite Mr. Sanjay Ojha and Mr. Jaishankar Pillai to talk about their point of view. Mr. Sanjay Ojha and Mr. Jaishankar. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Arora. That was an amazing opening remark, very insightful. And I will just follow through on the fundamentals you touched upon, right? The promise that the connected industry holds. If I may just request the producer to just bring the pitch up. I cannot see the document. If you want to share the document, so I can just guide the audience through the slides. Varun, probably
Yes.
you're on mute.
Yes, just a minute.
Okay.
Now can you see?
I cannot see the pitch, so I'm assuming the audience cannot see the pitch.
You have the presenter, right? Just need to share the screen.
Okay. Okay. So you want me to present? Okay. Give me a second. Okay. I'm just pulling up the presentation. Okay, Varun, can you see my screen now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, very good. So I'll just kind of, we'll just present a point of view from IBM on this topic, and essentially we're going to cover this in two parts. I'm going to cover what is connected services and IoT. Mr. Arora has given a great explanation, but I'll just share a little bit of a contextual point of view from IBM, and also what potential it holds. And then my colleague Jaishankar Pillai is going to talk about what is a functional view of this, what are the building blocks of IoT and connected services, and also the use cases, because use cases are spanning across various industries, and also they have, they are almost like real time impacting our lives on a daily basis. So as I move to the, this is a chart that, we share. I'm sorry, somebody is not able to hear me. Varun, can you hear me?
Yes, I can very much.
Okay, very good. One of the persons in the audience probably is not able to hear me. So this is the chart which actually, we just want to present and talk about what is the promise, what is the the size of the opportunity, and why it is real time right now, why it is happening right now. I think there are some fundamental shifts that has happened, in terms of technology and disruption. So there are convergence of several technologies, wireless communication, micro electrical systems, and of course, internet, all making internet of things a reality, and that is powering connected services. Um, yeah, and in fact, two other big developments that are happening right now, which actually Mr. Arora has touched upon, is the advent of 5G. In India, probably it's going to be another 18 months before 5G becomes live, but 5G is already operational in many other countries, and just the ubiquity of cell phone, along with the cloud computing. I think all this is driving a massive explosion in terms of what is a market for connected services powered by IoT. And if you see the chart on the left, this talks about uh, global opportunity going up from $600 billion to more than 1.1 trillion. And interestingly, unlike many other services, if you see that Asia Pacific dominates, Asia Pacific is almost half of that market opportunity. So this clearly tells that there is a big opportunity in the area of manufacturing, because manufacturing hubs which are sitting in the Asia Pacific region, China, Japan, India, Taiwan. So there are many countries which are very heavily manufacturing focused, are driving a lot of this IoT revolution, and also in terms of the consumer demand, because this is where the bulk of the consumer demand resides. On the right side of this chart, you'll see we have created an India view. Essentially, what's the sectoral growth of IoT-driven connected services in India? And we have also given a view of what industries are going to have what share in this market. You clearly see that manufacturing is one of the biggest opportunity area, Industry 4.0 and manufacturing. Smart utilities, smart cities, no doubt is going to probably have the dominant one, but followed by manufacturing. And these are the estimates. They change given the adoption. On the right side, if you see the extreme right chart, we're talking about share of businesses. Essentially, if you really deconstruct this, connectivity, hardware, services, and software are the ones. All these make up, IoT-driven connected, connected universe or connected Earth, if I have to say, and services are going to be a dominant part of that, and which is in line with what would you typically see in any kind of industrial exponential growth. So that's the kind of, we are really talking about an opportunity which is humongous, and it's clearly shown through the data, and it's shown through the trends in past few quarters. Now, as you can see that this IoT is driving digital disruption of the physical world. That's a very kind of unique interpretation. So data from connected devices, when it is combined with the computing, and we call it cognitive computing, it will enable disruptive industry transformation. Very clearly, cloud is emerging as a most flexible storage or architecture. The storage cost is pretty low. It's plummeting every quarter, every year. Now we have amazing cognitive analytics and data monetization potential, which is where you bring in heavy machinery to crunch this data, analyze this data. Pervasive connectivity and improve bandwidth, because there's a two-way communication, the data flow, the communication, it is powered by 5G, upcoming 5G, and then embedded sensors, right? Because sensors are the ones which are which collect all this kind of information, and they are the ones which permeates this information. And what all and how it really helps the some of the business operational metrics, right? So it improves operational performance, improves customer experience, it creates new business model, helps in environment when we really talk about saving energy. And if you really look at the some of the examples, right? Clearly, connected buildings, right? You can save energy by just analyzing what is the optimum temperature, or you can also do that through predictive maintenance. Servers on production lines can increase, sensors on production lines can increase efficiency. In-store devices can improve retail customer experience, and medical wearable devices can save lives. I mean, that's the profundity of the impact that can be created. And if you really translate this into what does it mean to have a basic IoT stack? As I mentioned, there are 4 key pillars. There are devices, which are sensor modules, modems, endpoint machines, because that's where you sense what is going on. Then you have the network through which you transmit this information. This is cellular network, Wi-Fi, so on and so forth, enabled by Bluetooth and satellites. Platform, which in this case actually we are talking about really cloud, because we have realized that cloud computing significantly improves the ability to do a two-way transfer and store information. And then just application, right, where you really go and monitor what is going on in a remote way. All this put together forms the basic of the IoT stack. So with that, I think with that context, I will hand it over to my colleague Jaishankar Pillai to talk about the functional architecture, the use cases, and how we see this being implemented in specific industries with couple of very specific example and use cases. Jaishankar. So I'm gonna run the slides for you because I already have it.
Thank you, Sanjay. So I'm trying to give a component view of IoT system. So as you told, Sanjay has told, there is an ecosystem of all providers, which actually makes a complete IoT system. So there are some collaborative partners which IBM does not provide. It's the telecom and network provider and map and location content provider. So that's basically the collaborative partners. But on the core components, there is always a device, there is always a sensor, there is always a OBU unit, which needs to be actually connected to the machines or to the devices. Finally, we have to have a device authentication, core IoT platform. You also need to have a business process orchestration platform to consume this data into the consumption devices, whether it is a mobile phone or a web page, etc., and the queuing of the mechanism, etc. And always IoT always have a customer facing applications which needs to be integrated. And finally, the dearth of data, the high quantity of data which is actually accumulating in the IoT system needs to be analyzed to actually monetize the data and then create value out of it. So all these elements actually mostly run on the cloud, and that's where your efficiencies actually emerge. But is that the only thing which is needed? No, we need to have a lot of service components also embedded into this. Since we are actually talking about a multi-cloud environment, or for that matter, something on premise as well as on cloud, you need to have a DevOps system which is actually able to manage this code properly. You need to have security protocols which are hard to actually hack, and production configuration. So all the DevOps pipeline needs to be built for it. You need to have a solution operation center because there are multiple people who are consuming this particular information, and you need to have a solution center or a center of observation for this particular platform, because it is very difficult to monitor and keep upkeep the application. Okay. The third important thing is you need to have a continuous innovation agenda, because you are actually directly dealing with the end consumers, and unless you actually innovate it continuously over a period of time, the applications become stale, and you have to actually have that mechanism to do with that. And the fourth is basically the application maintenance, which is the L2, L1, L3 support, etc., which is needed for the upkeep of it. So from an IBM point of view, if you really look at it, everything put together really makes a strong and complete IoT platform. And we have to actually go in a complete view of this IoT platform to gain the maximum benefits and value out of it. Sanjay, if you can just move to the next slide. So these are some of the representative use cases across industries. Connected vehicles, Kamal Arora Saab has actually told that there is huge amount of people and there is large activity happening in India with respect to connected vehicles and autonomous driving. Connected stores where we are able to actually manage the customer interactions much better, manage the energy consumption much better. Smart parking where you have the ability to allocate the space, integrate with your content providers and then able to do that. Smart insurance where you can actually able to, based upon the usage type of insurance, can you actually link it with your connected vehicle for doing it based upon the driver behavior. Worker safety, because your workers are your assets. How can you actually protect them? How can you actually give the upkeep of them in respect to incidents happening in your workplace, trying to actually monitor them. In the COVID scenario, whether we can actually try to actually monitor them, then monitor the temperature, the distance between the people. All these are pervasive and real use cases happening in this India market. And manufacturing is a huge use case on Industry 4.0, which I will go into a little bit detail. So if you really look at it, there are enough and enough things which are happening and a lot of potential on use cases for different types of industry where IoT is playing a major play into this. This is all combining the power of devices, cloud, network, and application to actually create value. IBM has been in the forefront of delivering this. These are some of the indicative client list for each of them. And if you really look at it in automotive and manufacturing, there is a lot of traction which is happening in India, where we are actually enabling customers to actually make their product as the end consumer digital hub. No? And that's what we are doing it in connected vehicle. And in manufacturing, how you can actually modernize your manufacturing network by going into edge cloud, edge computing, as well as modernization of the automation part of it. So a huge flora of customer list where IBM is really working, and majority of the activity on the services side is happening from India, even if it is for the customers worldwide. Sanjay, if you can go to the next slide. So this is a little bit of case study where we are actually going and enabling the autonomous driving or the connected vehicle part of it. This is for the largest OEM in India, and we are doing it for 2 more other OEMs in India, where we are actually combining safety, security, and usability point of use cases, trying to actually help the customers of using the car with novel services, including tow away alerts, stolen vehicle tracking, map services, everything integrated into one mobile app, whereby which you will be in a position to actually do this particular thing. And this data, we are again going and analyzing in a data lake to create value. And when you are talking about creating a value, it is like, how can you detect a speed bump before it actually happens? Okay, or you can actually predict a crash which is going to happen even if the airbags are not blown out. And all these models which are actually getting created will be actually finally transferred to the edge part of it for the real driverless computing part of it. Okay, so a lot of work is happening on India per se with respect to connected vehicles, and we are working with major OEMs in India to actually enable them to do that. Sanjay, if you can go to the next slide. So Industry 4.0, as you really told, it's a very growing area, and India being a manufacturing hub and the government policies on Make in India manufacturing, etc., provides a huge potential for that. And if you really look at it, we have to touch every part of manufacturing to really do it. There is sensor networks, majority of them are there are a lot of local networks which are available in the shop floor. So we need to find out how we can actually elevate them for data exchange. We have to collect data from the production lines, and that's not real time happening in this present environment. There is cloud integration, there is autonomous control, which we need to have. Finally, we have to run advanced analytics and models on the cloud and the edge, etc., to derive value. So it's the complete list of activities from a technology platform we need to do. But from an offering standpoint, we have something called Connected Operator, which helps you to motivate and supervise as well as optimize the workforce inside the factory. Operational insight is basically to create, like if you have a multiple factory setup, how you can actually integrate the data coming from the machines with the data actually the operator is actually doing to find out the OE productivity and have a dashboard to actually view the OE productivity across multiple lines or multiple factory locations and then take dynamic decisions on based upon that. Cognitive supply chain operations is basically to find out how we can use optimization algorithm, location serving algorithms, etc., or for that matter, a logistic service provider network, etc., or for connected service network, so that we can actually automate the complete movement of the goods and vehicles inside the factory, etc. Predictive maintenance and
I
predictive.
think, Jaishankar, just the interest of time, probably if you can close in next 30 seconds so that we can move to the next section, panel discussion.
So predictive repair and risk-based MRO are again important things. There is a lot of optimization we can actually do that, condition monitoring and drones, etc. And the real value comes when we actually integrate blockchain as well as cognitive analytics into this particular thing and then go ahead and then do it. That's the initial pitch. Sorry, I was driving through and we will actually take the questions as it comes. Thank you. And I would hand it over to Rajesh Parameswaran. Rajesh, if you can take through the panel setup, it would be interesting for the leaders what they are actually opinions about this.
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It is really a great pleasure to actually moderate a panel of an august gathering of industry experts from diverse backgrounds and experiences to discuss one of the hottest topics of the sector, which is about connected services. As you can see, companies are no longer looking at, doing assessments and proof of concept, but are clearly incorporating digital transformation not just as a technology element, but making it part of their overall business plan itself. So there is a new business model that is emerging of offering services as a complete change to the solutions being provided by manufacturing companies. That is moving from selling products to offering services and solution that meets customer needs. We heard about connected car and all of that, and by and large, this thrust towards digital transformation, which is actually enhanced, as a result of the COVID pandemic, is led largely by automotive sector. And automotive sector in India is actually, leading this even for some of their global, parent companies in terms of how they move in the connected car segment. So to understand more about these aspects, let me just turn the attention to our panel, and we can start with a 2-minute opening comments on how do they see this entire connected space. And I would like to first invite Mr. Vijay Sethi, who's actually a multifaceted personality. He's a CIO, CHRO, and the head of CSR function of Hero MotoCorp to kickstart this session. So, Mr. Sethi, over to you for your initial 2-minute comments.
I think Mr. Sethi is gone for 2 minutes.
Okay. So, Rahul, if I can, turn that to you. Rahul Shanlia is the president and group CIO from Welspun. Welspun is one of the largest players in the home furnishing and textile segment, and really, championing the cause of Make in India. So, Rahul, for your opening comments.
Good. Thank you. First of all, thank you, everyone. And thank you, Rajesh. It's been a pleasure to hear a lot of opening remarks and some very good content which you guys had put through on IoT. Having spent so many years in the industry, what comes to my mind about IoT, or let us put it better, the connected services, is that it has come of age. Many of us who are a bit older now, if you go back a decade or more earlier, what started as a concept and then which traversed through the feasibility assessments of various technologies, how to put this whole stack together and then make some sense out of it, has reached out to a size and the scale where we are beginning to talk about the deployment of connected services in the business operations or in the space of customer engagement. I call it an individual's life space. So it's a pretty interesting time we have grown into from the IoT to a connected services space. So that's one thing I'm personally very excited to look forward to as a professional. I'm also looking forward to take benefits out of this into our industries. That's one thing. One thing which come to my mind is when we talk of connected services, what is going to make a difference moving forward? And one phrase which I would like to talk about is the multiplier effect. This component has a great potential to create a multiplier effect into the industrial productivity space or in the space of customer engagement and the experience. So that's something I look forward to, and I really argue in favor of that connected services can create a bigger value over a period of time in the shortest scale, time scale, as we look forward into the future. So that's an interesting thing which I would look forward to. And why I argue in the favor is I think there are four reasons why I would look forward to this. One, these devices have become very high on the compute and the storage. Not gone are those days when the devices used to struggle to even compute a small algorithm. We have a capability to edge level processing of the information at these devices. The telecom revolution has made the data transport pretty cheap. 5G would only make it better. So we can actually reach places using the telecom network. So that makes it much more relevant. The usage of internet communication protocol, even in the internal space of the manufacturing plant, and the devices which are coming in the industrial automation space, when they come up compatible with the industry, with the internet protocol, that makes it pretty easy to do a system integration and use the IT networks to actually play the industrial components as well. So that's something which is quite a good accelerated gains. The user interface, UI UX space, technology that have come up on these devices has created an opportunity to a larger space time for the decision making. So that gains traction because now you have the stakeholder available to participate in the IoT ecosystem space, and which you can call it a connected services, because you're talking about beneficiaries. You're talking about people who are going to get involved to take decisions to make use of that information which you are kind of afloat around. So put this all together, and the whole industrial space you spoke about, across from automotive to devices, security, hospital, home care, you take anything. This is quite an exciting space, and multiplier effect again would like to bring forth. The maturity curve of this is something which all have to work upon, and many of you who are great partners to us, IBM is a great partner to Welspun. So we look forward to that. We grow from a of creating data, then to transporting and storing data. So that space is, I think, taken. It will mature. You guys are there. I would look forward to that. We move quickly into the decision-making space. The FaceTime space for the stakeholders, and create a value there. The faster we do that, and we bring a multiplier, scaling effect there, I think we would have kept the promise, which is unfolding. So I'm personally very excited to see this in the coming decade, and I think as an organization, we'll look forward to what's happening in this space and stay invested in it. What do you?
Yeah, thanks, Rahul. Thanks for your opening comments. With that, let me just turn to Anup. Anup Chirvatur, actually, head of, CTO for Hero Electronics. Is basically an organization which has actually moved from automotive to creating solutions in this particular space. So Anup, over to you, if you can quickly run through what your initial thoughts are on this.
So Varun,
Yeah, I can
Varun?
hear you. This is Rajesh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, already done. Please check.
Okay. So I have a small presentation to also. To give you the context, are basically Hero Electronics primarily focused. We are a player in this, and we see this digitization, connectivity, which the panelists have spoken, Sanjay, yeah. So basically, we see that happening right now in India. So globally, the market for smart home was estimated to about 50 billion. But in India, as we speak, the adoption, and that's in India, that our ability to adopt technologies, we do leapfrogs. We have seen that in LTE happening in the past. And as it stands, almost 2 million houses in India have smart bulbs, right? So while we'll talk about this market, what are the driving factors of this market? I think we have talked about it. The key driving factor for the adoption is the cost of the sensors is coming down. It used to be upwards of $10 a couple of years back. Now it has fallen down to a couple of $1 to $2, which allows you to kind of automate and the appliances. We talked about multiple technologies like Zigbee, NB-IoT, which is now available in multiple regions, and we are expecting at some point of time the operators in India will adopt NB-IoT, and I strongly believe it is going to be one of the major drivers for smart cities and so on and so forth. We did talk about connectivity and the rates at speed at which the connectivity is increasing, speed at which the rates are coming down. This is definitely a big driver. So IoT by itself, we talked about, is today as a reality. You find it almost everywhere, right? Even in India, the phone itself is a connected devices. We have applications on it which allow us to manage our daily business. And in this COVID space, we had e-commerce with us. These are all manifestations of it. What I really want to cover is focusing on a lot of OEMs in India who will get into this business of making their devices smarter, making devices specifically for certain use cases. How do you go about selecting platforms in order to do that? Yes, IBM, I think Jayshankar and Sanjay did talk about it. These are personally from our own experience. One of the key aspects is security of the platform, right? Why is it? Is because you bring a value proposition to the user. And in our case, we are entering people. So it's very important that we ensure data privacy. We ensure that the solutions we are giving to the consumers are not compromised. So it's a very key factor. Of course, we need to, as OEMs, start the design with scalable and high availability designs. Primarily, this leads to looking at options in cloud because they allow you to scale. They allow you to they are also a very high availability systems. Multi-geography. I do believe India, when we start with Make in India, we will be going not just in our OEM partners will also take these products outside. So your plan has to cover multiple geographies. The next point is very important. It's called data localization. So whatever platform you choose, make sure the platform allows data localization within national boundaries. This is going to be a very important topic. This is because the IoT devices, it basically tells you how a city runs. It tells you how, well, let's say in Hero, we have thousands of customers. Actually, we are keeping data on how lives of 1,000 customers work. It's very important that the data remains in the national boundaries. These are not afterthoughts. These have to be part of the platform, the solution which we choose. Multi-tenancy is important also. Then, of course, at the device, it's very important to choose the right protocol, right protocol to solve your use case. So let's say it's a case of smart street lighting, and NB-IoT would be probably a good solution for it. But if you're looking at home automation, you would like to create a mesh using Zigbee or Delhi for that matter. And as we have talked multiple times, what is the real value you give to the user has to be augmented using AI at the edge. Now, when I say AI, I would like to say you have to solve a problem of a consumer using multiple models and deliver it accurately to actually create the value for it. So it's very important that you augment and innovate and give value proposition. For example, let's say you have a case of an AC. Turning on and off an AC, yes, people call it automation, but can you save energy for him? Can you ensure that over a period of night, you have temperature, the ambient, these are values to add. I still want to spend some time before I hand it over to speak the security. Now, key part of the security that it is changing. Whenever you a cloud-based platform or even a platform, you have to your service. You should have authorized industry. Don't compromise on security because you will see an outage of service. I have point Henry. So it's important that this is designed properly. Concepts with kind of action. Again, capable of support and encrypted manner. Thank you.
Yeah, so Anup, thanks for your opening remarks. You actually touched upon a few areas which I think is important, and I think in follow through we will talk about it. You talked about data privacy, you talked about security, and you also talked about how can we add more value to end consumers. I think we'll touch upon some of these points. Can I invite Mr. P.K. Roy, head of plant operations in Maruti, to talk about his view, his experiences, and opening remarks.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Rajesh. Jaishankar talked about the connected cars, and he also talked about Industry 4.0 and the factory of the future. So I will start with a use case. It's a simple one. For example, everybody knows a car engine has a crankshaft. And the crankshaft is supposed to rotate at a very high RPM. So if it is unbalanced, it can lead to vibration and it can lead to noise. And you know, crankshaft is a forged part. So it is produced from a die, and it's a batch production. A typical batch size would be 2,000 to 3,000. And in the older days, what we used to do is to pick up the first 5 pieces from the batch, process it through the machining line, and at the end of the line you do balancing, and from that data you do correction in the end milling and the centering machine to achieve a balanced crankshaft. But you do it only once for the entire batch of 2,000 to 3,000 pieces. And the all parts in the batch are not same. There are variations. So we used to end up with 1 to 2% of rejection end of the line in each batch. Now look at the change scenario. In the change scenario, the first process that you do, you pick up a forged crankshaft, you do scanning of that crankshaft, and you compare that scanned data with an ideal crankshaft, and this data is fed to the next process, which is the milling and the centering machine. And using this data, this machine is able to actually pinpoint the center of mass of the crankshaft and do the machining accordingly. So what are the advantages? The advantages are, at the end of the line, you have zero rejection. That's number one. Number two, since each and every crankshaft is being scanned, you are not worried about lot to lot variation. So you save on productivity, you save on rejection. So you have a very narrow band within which you manage the unbalance. And what is it that we achieve for the customer? The customer gets a engine which has less vibration, less noise, maybe higher fuel efficiency. So I gave this example to illustrate the enormous potential the IoT environment has for us as manufacturers. The government has a stated goal of increasing the contribution of manufacturing sector to a level of 25% of our national GDP from the current level of 16%. Now, how do we achieve that goal? We can achieve that goal only when you grow at a rapid pace. And how do you grow? You grow only when you are competitive. And how do we become competitive? Can we be satisfied with being competitive locally? Of course, no. We have to be competitive globally. And in order to become competitive, you need to be competitive in terms of value. In terms of value, I mean in terms of cost and also in terms of quality. So in order to achieve all this, we need technology, we need innovative solutions to the day-to-day problems that we face. In a automobile manufacturing scenario, it's a fairly long process, and you generate lot of data, and that data in raw form is incomprehensible. So in order to convert that data into meaningful information, and from that meaningful information, if you can derive the actionable points, that is the the crux of the matter. IoT helps you to achieve that goal, where you have data, you connect that data in a particular way, do data analytics, and through the machine learning process, you arrive at actionable points, which helps you build a process in which you have consistency of quality, and it's a high productive line. Thereby, you can reduce the cost per component. So there is enormous potential as far as IoT is concerned for the manufacturing industry. We at Maruti have adopted a policy of identifying the need at a local level and then implementing the solutions that are available. Use that as a case study, and then based on the insights that we get, we are planning to scale up. So that's in short from my side. Over to you, Rajesh.
Thank you very much. I think Maruti has always been a leader, so it is nice to hear from you, especially creating that market opportunity for growth using leveraging technology. And again, you opened up a few thought process around how do we leverage IoT to kind of be able to expand that market. Thank you very much. From there. Havells has actually been, one of the pioneers from a, finished goods segment perspective, and bringing, IoT to their products. So I just want to invite Vivek, the senior vice president, to come in and talk about his experience. Vivek, you need to mute one of them. That's why
there's a noise from the background. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Fine. Okay. So thanks, Rajesh. I will try to give a little, perspective of Havells and also the IoT journey that Havells is into. So we are actually a uniquely positioned organization We are into multiple products. We manufacture our own products. More than 90% of our products are manufactured in-house. And there is a lot of stress on improving the efficiencies in factory. So much so that our latest factory, which started operation sometime in December last year, is based on Industry 4.0. We are producing our air conditioners there, which we sell in India. We acquired a brand called Lloyd somewhere in 2017, and we started manufacturing in our own plant these air conditioners in December last year. So here, the processes are completely automated. Even the material movement on the floor is through automated guided vehicles. So we have online data of what we are producing. We are able to control all the parameters of the finished products online, and complete testing also is fully automated. These are run on automated machines. So we are seeing, a lot of difference in what we were doing earlier and what we are doing now, and seeing the huge benefits of, IoT on the manufacturing side. And there is definitely a desire to, upgrade the other manufacturing units. We have the 12 manufacturing sites that we have across the country. Coming to the product side, so our journey into IoT started somewhere in 2016. When we launched our home automation division, so which is basically moving into home and controlling lights, controlling curtains, security, cameras, audio visuals, appliances, etc. So this we launched, and today we already have close to a few 100,000 of connected devices installed in the different homes that we have done across the country. We are now moving into next stage. In last, over a year, we've set up an innovation center, which is working on developing Havells' own platform for IoT. And the endeavor is that the other product divisions that we have, which is consumer durables, which is air conditioners, washing machines, refrigerator, our small domestic appliances, water heater, fans, water purifier, and also our industrial products division, which is mainly into electrical distribution products, where we manage electricity. Even those can be automated. Last year only we launched our MCB, which is the final point in controlling circuits in our homes or in different premises. Even those are communicable, so you can control, you can collect data on faults, the different types of fault. You can remotely access the circuits and on and off, get them on and off. We are also looking at how we can move into connected services, because it's the first endeavor is to reach homes. For Havells, it is possible to reach almost 70% of the electrical socket points inside our house, because that's the range that Havells has. And imagine if all those 70 points are based on are connected to products which are IoT enabled. So and they are all on Havells platform. The amount of data that can generate and help us in doing preventive and proactive maintenance, and it can help us in getting feedback on our products. Helping us in developing new use cases, and incorporating those use cases in the products that we further develop and sell. Today, if I have to get feedback, I have to actually physically go to customers, conduct research, employ a lot of people, engage agencies to actually give me that kind of feedback. So all that is now possible through my connected devices, where consumer is directly going to give me feedback. So, and we are at a stage where we are looking at IoT as not only just as a revenue stream for the products that we sell, but also at a stage where we are going to integrate consumer into our whole product development cycles, and also revenue stream where possibly we can sell service packages and solutions to customer where they can utilize the power of IoT and give us the revenue stream in another business. So I'll stop at this stage, and as the panel discussion goes forward, we'll be happy to contribute.
Thank you, Vivek. I think that's quite innovative, and you actually covered the entire spectrum of looking at product design to end consumers, and the thought about connecting to 70 points in a consumer house and to create that benefit out of that, really insightful. Thank you so much. From coming to the one of the largest conglomerate that is there, started with heavy engineering and then a branch to technology and then getting into technology services. There has been a lot of transformation that L&T has gone through. And Sudeep Majumdar, who's actually a part of the, who heads the ENC industry, who's the digital leader for the ENC industry and general manager for L&T Next. Sudeep, if you can unmute yourself and give us your valuable insights into this.
Yeah, sure. Am I audible, please? I think there's a...
Yes, you are.
So many great speakers actually talking about their own industries. What is the balance? What do I talk about? Okay, since you gave me a space actually to talk about L&T, but I'll take it in different ways. First of all, yes, of course, I'm part of the L&T Next, which is very similar journey to Anup's journey actually. That
I think we have some connectivity issue. Sudeep ji, can I request you to switch off your camera?
While Sudeep comes back, okay, Rahul, from your perspective as a Sudeep, are you back?
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry, this is my problem. That means okay.
No, go ahead.
Sorry. So yeah, so I was talking about that. Our journey is it's stated already that we want to play in the technology, from the technology to the core sector, construction and manufacturing. So that's a way actually. If you look at LTI, LTTS, Mindtree, and now the newest baby, which is L&T Next, which is purely on digital. We will not play in the ERPs and the CRMs or the SCMs of the world. We'll be playing only the digital, as Rajesh and Sanjay and other IBM person actually talked about lots of these connected devices and connected services. So pretty much the same thing actually we are doing, but our journey is not in one place. The difference between what PK Roy said and Havel said is basically, it's in our case is 80% to 90% of the people actually are in Timbuktus, literally, right? They are spread around in 30 plus countries. And the sites are basically, we do have all kinds of challenging connectivity, so-called. I can embed the system, I can embed the Snapdragon's the latest chip, but it doesn't work. So there's a kind of innovation we had to do. When people are talking about 5G, of course, we are also looking for 5G. We have 4G, we have a 3G, we've got practically 2G enabled devices. And, so it is not about only technology, how the technology is used. I love somebody talked about how do we use different, whether to use the Zigbee, whether to use the Bluetooth, whether to use the RFID. Yes, of course. And ask me, please. And probably some other day we'll talk about the same technology did not work in one side, another side it worked. Yeah, in the nuclear side, LoRaWAN fantastic, but I could not work in some other side because there are lots of obstructions. So typically our industry is a little different. I'm talking about more on the construction side, where every site is different, every configuration is different. Even within the same, we had to innovate some of the things. Some of the things we could standardize, some of the things we could not. So one is important for us is L&T is we look at edge to experience. If you look at what is edge, the sites are basically the edge, right? The sites were connected through some kind of extension of the ERPs historically, but we could not connect our machines. We could not connect our workers through different kinds of kits, right? And then we could not connect. So connected worker, connected man, connected materials are kind of reality for us, and we started from there. How do we connect, large concrete pieces in the site? How do I take that and look at the traceability by integrating with the ERP? That's one. Secondly, our motor gate was a batching plan. How much they're working? Was the utilization? Was the productivity? We had idea, but the idea is actually we chose to challenge to what the idea was, and we have got benefited by that, obviously by challenging that. So the next level that we want to go for industry transformation, because L&T, yes, we have got huge investment. We've got to see lots of improvement, but we believe that it can be easily pushed into the entire industry segment. Like some of the examples, actually, I just so before I go to the industry, so edge to experience part, I just wanted to talk about. So edge is, as I said, edge, where we'll be connecting the dots in the site, which is in 2G spectrum, so-called, even today, 2G to 5G, anything, right? Anything from LoRaWAN to BLE to RFID. So that's one part. Second part is, how do I take the data? As you said, 4 TB data, somebody talked about the per car. We actually process 4 TB data from the machines to understand the condition monitoring and preventive maintenance for the 12,000 machines that we have connected in the site. So in all probability, you'll be going to the site, you'll see that a machine which is people are working, whether it's a concrete, the steel, whatever the stuff is, it's connected actually. And we see that them run time. Similarly, a connected worker is such that we know that what kind of safety arrangement that we need to do in case there is any trouble. So, and from there to experience. The experience part is whose experience? Experience is the customer's experience. Who is the customer? One is internal customers, our management. Because connecting the site and to the management is, earlier it used to be through some data hand cranked. And today we are seeing the hand cranked data. We are not replacing that, cannot be replaced so far, so quickly. But of course, it is kind of challenged by continuously by the edge data and intelligent edge data. So that is the edge to experience story for us. And of course, we are trying to extend it to our customers, our honorable customers. Many of them are government, and we see that lots of pressure on from the government side as well. Let's go digital. So we'd love to be on board at some point in time together. Another important thing, just to extend that, why we talked about that industry transformation we are looking for. It is not about L&T, it is not about one particular company. Because if you look at today, the way the workmen, today, what is the post-COVID problem? Post-COVID problem is we don't know where the people are. People are not connecting, we cannot connect the people. We are not being able to woo them back to the, even with incentives, because we don't know where they are. We don't know what they do, what kind of skill set they have, right? So far, entire workmen in the Indian context, especially, very transactional, right? They come in, they go out, but you don't know the demographic details. You don't know what the kind of skill sets they have, what kind of medical conditions they had, and they underwent from one side to another, from your side to another company side to another company side. So how do we actually tackle this through connected services? That's very important, and that's what we are actually looking at. And some of the government agencies are also looking at. We are working with them. I think I'll leave it there, but that's the connected service. We'd like to see industry transformation, right? Rather than only a company transformation. How do we take it back? How do we take our internal experience to external world? That's what we are doing as a part of Next, and we'll continue to do so. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Sudeep. Thank you very much. And pretty much, I think that's a industry problem as far as the construction segment is concerned, to get the people back. And how do you actually, it's not just about incentive, it's about how do they feel safer, and how do they become more productive. Anand, thanks for coming back. You've actually been championing technology at Whirlpool as a CIO. What's your perspective? And I think outside of automotive, right, the white goods segment and the consumer product segment has actually embraced IoT a lot. And therefore, what do you think? How does it work from a Whirlpool perspective? Your views on the entire connected services space?
I mean, I think I would go with the same thought process of saying that look at the industry. I mean, as consumer product industry, you can really see that there are two elements to really look at. One, the consumers, and the consumer's view on connected services, because that's where again it gets positioned from our products and services as well, where it comes on saying that like what is that consumer is really looking for. And the second perspective that comes in is more from the industrial IoT standpoint and what's happening in that space from the manufacturing space that we have, where we manufacture the products per se. So looking at the consumer's view, I mean, I think Anup mentioned earlier on, said that like, okay, switching on and off an AC with your mobile is kind of given. You say like, okay, fine, that is right. I mean, I really do it nowadays, but what does that do for me? I mean, is it like a flip of a button and that is what I mean by IoT? Probably not. Actually, it goes beyond that to much farther level. If I have to really then tie it back to the theme here, saying that connected services, and that's where the real theme emerges out. I mean, if I really look at it in terms of entertainment industry, the entertainment industry has taken one step forward here. If you really look at it in terms of Netflix, you look at Amazon Prime Videos, how they are really grown up. I mean, you nowadays don't really want to pay for a hard box or device or this or that. You connect your TV through your internet, you pay for the services, and you watch what you like to watch. And that's where the theme is really going, and the expectation from the consumers are growing further, saying that let's say just give me what I want, and I'm good to pay for that as well. The same thing applies to our industry as well. In consumer products, whether it is kitchen products that we have, or if I really look at Whirlpool as the kitchen and laundry company, all of the suite of product that we really look for are essentially coming in this space where we really look for services getting enabled more and more. Especially in case of Whirlpool, if you really know, Yumly is our recipe management that we really offer in the US, where I can actually go and give instruction for deploying a recipe on my microwave, and my food gets prepared at home when I reach home if I'm traveling. Nowadays, nobody's traveling anyways because of COVID. But if I have been traveling in and if I'm going from office to home, that's a use case which is working in, and people are ready to pay for that. Same thing applies in India as well. I mean, we really look for a lot more cases like that, which will emerge, and that's where the industry is really looking for connected services. If I look at my industrial revolution and on the manufacturing side, managing my manufacturing lines, the machines, monitoring the performances, uptime remotely is kind of already there. How do I get that enabled through my services, where my partner who's maintaining my machines is able to get alerts when he really wants, and he's able to come and then provide me that service at that given point of time. And that's where I think this is going to go in my mind. And that's basically what I'm really looking at, the theme, which is going to really emerge from the industry standpoint.
I think, Anand, your take on the recipe is definitely, although people are not traveling, I think it is even more valid today with so many people sitting at home and wanting, to kind of taste all kinds of gourmet cuisines that people put up on YouTube. So I think that's even more interesting.
Yep.
Let me just turn attention to Sandesh. Sandesh actually manages the manufacturing cluster for Godrej. He's on the eastern part of the country. So he's really quite a distance away in Guwahati. Sandesh, if you can unmute yourself and talk about, give us your view.
Yeah, good evening all. Being a FMCG company in Godrej, normally we use multiple SKUs, and there are a lot of flexibilities and a lot of cost pressures are there to meet the competition. So as a part of, I'm just sharing my experience that as a part of this industry 4.0, 2 years back, we have started this IoT implementation and some other activities. In that, we have provided this on our manufacturing line, that OE calculation, that in our energy management monitoring. There we have gone for IoT system whereby that real-time information has helped us in improving our efficiencies on the lines. And as a part of that, what we are doing, because since we are making a lot of our products at multiple facilities all over the India. So what we are doing as a part of the networking of our manufacturing process, we are going to go for this implementation of IoT on all our manufacturing lines, whereby the information can be collated and real-time information is available, and a business, this analytics can be developed so that we can have a true real idea of where the improvement initiative or improvement opportunities are there. So this is one thing. So particularly if you FMCG on soap lines or our, you can say, liquid vaporizer lines and our hair color lines, because even machines are there and a lot of human interventions are there. So what, because with the help of this IoT and with the real-time information, we are in a position to identify that what are the main bottlenecks in the system where we can attack and can improve the efficiency of the lines. Secondly, what we are thinking, since we are having an ERP system, so that total integration of the ERP with our manufacturing efficiency system and OE measurement and all, so that that's online authorization of production can also be given on the line, so that there is, without wasting any time on the production planning and all those things, that can be a sort of visual authorizations can be given. While going through this journey, what because there are some of the points or some challenges I just wanted to highlight on this. See, one thing is that when we are selecting machines, at that point of time, this compatibility of this IoT sensors and these things is not normally checked at that point of time when we are ordering these machines. So when we are implementing these things at the shop floor, then there are issues like IP conflict issues or those kind of things are there. So that takes some time to resolve. So that is one of the things which I foresee. Secondly, normally what happens, what we are looking for that apart from this, we want our machines to be intelligent. When I'm saying this, machines to be intelligent, normally in PLCs and whenever any fault is there, though recording is there, we know that what is the downtime and what is the loss of efficiency, everything is okay. But you also agree that finally somebody has to go there and rectify the problem. So there the skill of the person or skill of the technician is also involved. So, and as the system is established and we have gone through and we are talking of industry 4.0, so I understand that we are at level of around industry 3.0. We have some system of automation, some predictive maintenance or preventive maintenance system over there. So the point is that that operator skill or that competency of that particular person is still again involved there. So what we are looking for, that when we are going for this kind of implementation, definitely there should be some intelligent features should be incorporated along with the software side, so that through with the help of sensor, some kind of an automation, those things can be identified and can be tracked so that immediate rectification can be done. So because now there is no low hanging fruits are there. So once this, you are going through a analytic part of it and you are finding that this particular issue is coming and there complex techniques are required to solve those issues. So my expectation and the expectation will be there that the service providers should be equipped with the knowledge of process also, and where they are going to adopt or going to implement these things. Then only in a true sense we can reap the benefit of IoT implementation or a, you can say, plant simulation or digital twins. Then in a true terms, when then we can reap the true benefit. That is from my side.
Right. I think, thank you, Sandesh. It's a very important element that you brought up in terms of understanding domain and ensuring that the original equipments are, are able to be more intelligent. And that's a right, intervention point for Rahul Khare. whole actually comes from Honeywell and ISA as well as China for Honeywell industrial automations. Over to you, Rahul. You're on mute.
Thanks, Rajesh, and thanks for this opportunity. I think a lot of topics and subtopics have been covered. So what I thought was maybe in a quick 2 to 3 minute time span, I would come from the other way around. We talked about technology and its applications. Let me come from what are we delivering for the customers and the end users, and let's look at it from their perspective. Because ultimately all the technology, the real test of its relevance is how we are able to create value for the end users there. And I'm actually happy to hear some of the end users, CDOs and digital leaders talking about it as well. So what are we trying to solve for is where I would think about it. And I would say the key benefits, particularly in an industrial context, would be, say, improving productivity, driving more safety as the companies go about their operations. And if those are the ultimate goals that we are trying to arrive at, then what is it that our technology is enabling? What are we solving for? With the scale of operations, typically there would be a bit of complexity that comes into any large enterprise, any organization with, say, multi-location, multi-plant, multi-line kind of operations. There is also a tendency of accumulating a lot of point solutions, and therefore for companies to start working in silos, even though they have so much of digital in their ecosystem, so to say. And the reason for that is there is lack of integration between the applications that have been accumulated over the years for solving for one or of their specific problems. And then, of course, there is the analytics piece that got talked about with so much data getting captured over a period of time, again, through these applications. How are we leveraging these data and driving those actionable insights that some of the speakers also talked about? So in that sense, I think if we were to solve for breaking these silos down, if we were to solve for overcoming the complexity that an enterprise builds over a period of time in their operations, and also leverage their data for analytics, then to drive the productivity and safety part that we were talking about, then how do we really go about it? I think it starts with a bit of categorization of what we have got. So we could talk about the assets that we have got in a manufacturing setup. We could talk about processes that are followed in a manufacturing setup. And of course, the most important piece of it, which is the people or the worker. So connecting each of these is where a lot of power resides. And that's where the whole concept of enterprise performance management really comes in. And that's something, of course, a lot of you touched upon. In fact, you talked about the future of the factory as a point of view that IBM has. All of that in a conceptual way is kind of moving towards a direction which we like to call as enterprise performance management, where you are moving away from solving for local maximas to really look at an enterprise-wide, all-encompassing optimization where you could drive the highest amount of benefits. So I think that is where the whole theme of connected services becomes extremely relevant because we are talking about enabling such an enterprise-wide, so to say, transformation. Although I typically do not like that word transformation because it kind of sounds like you will change everything overnight. Which obviously doesn't happen. It takes years of step-by-step walk towards that whole holy grail of being an enterprise, an optimized enterprise. But it's a journey, and all of us as practitioners kind of know that. So connected services becomes a key cog in the wheel to drive that whole transformation, and in that journey towards being a connected enterprise, because that's the ultimate goal, and to drive that performance management that we're talking about. And would be happy to maybe add on this as we speak.
Right. I don't know how much time, Varun, we have, but just to do a quick, round two with all the people, since we've, a lot of data points and, thoughts have come in. Just to start with Rahul Shandlia, quickly, in terms of, we talked about employment opportunities and the fact of manufacturing. You are in a space which is both, while it is while you're a manufacturer, you're also an exporter, and you also do a large part of work in the agri space. So there's a lot of contribution in that segment as well. So you're in some way at the at the edge of multiple entities. How do you think this technology, leveraging technology, benefit you as an exporter, as a agri proponent, as well as a manufacturer?
Rajesh, just to add to what you said, people, if they don't know, then just to introduce Welspun. We are a conglomerate. We're about a $3 billion conglomerate, and we have industry positions in majority of our businesses. We are into home textile, one of the finest and the largest manufacturers globally, serving our customers globally through about 100 retail in the developed markets. We are also among the leaders, world leaders in the large diameter pipes serving the natural resources industry. And we are also among the nation builders in the road, making longitudinal projects work. So just to bring these three spaces, we are of the opinion, and we are highly committed to a digital future. I'm happy to say that even today, 95% of our business transactions, they happen on cloud environment, and we are a cloud first group now. We are committed to look at all these technologies, including the connected services, a way forward to see through that we generate value in the business. Now, coming to we being, as I said, we have two big space we look forward to. One is manufacturing. So we look forward to industrial productivity being enhanced, leveraging the connected service from the perspective of how we can get the manufacturing, environment, generate relevant data, which can be used by us for better operations, which can be used for us by us for creating better products, for assuring our customers that we are always on a continuous improvement, going forward. So that's something which I think we are committed to, and we have been leading that space for quite a while, having Weltrack in the textile industry. It's a benchmark platform. I've been using this, helping create our great products, great quality experiences for our customers. So we stay committed there. We have Weltrack, which lots of data from machines directly, and actually helps us in the not just the production management, but also in terms of the quality, in terms of creating a reliable repeatability of a process. So that's something which we stay in the space. We have also used computer vision to identify the quality control, and this works on, again, as I said, the industrial connected services, brings up the exception scenarios and helps our production and the quality people to eliminate, very early if there is any exception in production. So that's how we are investing in, and we believe that it's a value add to people, it's a value add to the process. It's a combination of people and technology is going to make a big difference. So people and connected services are my use for the today's parlance. So that's something to look at. We extensively use pipe quality, with lots of data gathered, from the engineering point of view, directly from the devices which are working on these products, and we directly post them into an SAP. We don't have any interventions coming in, so a lot of reporting which gets built is quite because of that. On the longitudinal construction the road construction the same way. If you look at, we are extensively connecting our project from ground to gathering a lot of field data, GIS data, traffic data, the construction quality data, using the construction technologies, the operational technologies, connected to devices which actually have a capability to bring back and help us build decision making. I was very happy to see that even in the last 4-5 months, while the unprecedented surplus were there in the industry, we at Wellspun were actually quite close to working in almost like a normal condition in terms of minimal disruption. And a lot of this credit would go to the technologies, digital technologies we all invested in as a group over years. I think we could see the benefit coming out of it. So lots had been done. Lot has been seen as a benefit coming out. Overall, as an organization, we're excited to spending more on it and taking the maximum out of it. As I said, it's here to stay, and I think we are committed to make it work together with many of you as our partners.
Thanks, Rahul. Varun, do we have some more time in terms of taking up one question?
In fact, we can have as much time we want. We can, if all the speakers are ready, we can increase 20 minutes and we can do the panel discussion for another 20 minutes.
Oh, that's great. So I just want to bring up one question which is actually come up from one of our participants, and his name is Girish, and Girish is from the construction industry, and he talks about the fact that while what everybody is talking about is great, how do we bridge the gulf between hardcore construction professionals and technology providers? So basically, what is being asked to, and I think the question is more towards the technology partners like IBM and Honeywell in terms of saying how do you bring domain expertise, to the job and not just talk about how technology can play. And actually, this goes back to some of the other conversations that we have had in the past. So Sanjay, do you want to pick that up? Sanjay, you're on mute. Sanjay, Rahul, while Sanjay connects back, Rahul Khare, do you want to, or unless you're not around? Okay. Jaishankar, do you want to pick that up and talk about how do you bring domain to the technology space?
Yeah, so thanks, Rajesh. Domain combination with technology is absolutely important. And this is something which is not only true for IoT, but also for any other digital imperatives, correct? The way IBM tries to handle is we can bring certain elements of domain expertise inside IBM itself, okay? That's one part of it. But having said so, how the crankshaft is manufactured in Maruti and what are the elements which will contribute to that particular manufacturing, it's Maruti's domain domination, okay? You will never be in a position to replicate it in a service industry or in a IoT industry per se, okay? So I would rather look at collaborating with the customers to actually build it, and that collaboration is the key, and co-build and collaborate to actually build it, okay? The only reason is that we have to be very clear on what are the expertise we are going to bring as vendors, and what is the expertise Maruti is going to bring, or a customer is going to bring, that we have to collaborate and make the value out of it.
Yeah, and so while we talked about devices and talked about edge and adding more value, I want to actually touch upon more in terms of revenue streams. And as companies producing manufacturing goods and services for your clients, while you may be able to create a particular and put a sensor on it and be able to connect and collect data, how do you generate revenue out of that? So I think that is one element which is more important, and to say that, okay, can this become therefore a annuity revenue stream? And going back to what Rahul earlier talked about, saying that it could be almost equal. So any views on that? And you can unmute yourself, and I'm just making it a free flow. Don't want this to be a Arnab Goswami, but yeah.
Can I take it a little bit on that? This is, as you talked about that, creating revenue stream with the domain knowledge. Precisely, that's the thing that L&T Next is. L&T as a strategy we are trying to achieve. So if you look at our different types of construction, and whether it's oil and gas, to a bridge, to a road, and to the manufacturing, the different kinds of manufacturing, mostly the discrete manufacturing. And we also make the water structures, right? So different types of industry that we are exposed to through the construction, actually we are trying to take that, leverage that domain knowledge, and actually mash it up with our technology knowledge, the digital technology knowledge. We're actually going to the market. That's what exactly, that's our strategy. Now, doing digital and selling digital, there are two different things. It's not very easy or very smooth as it seems to be. And trust me, you can ask us what are the difficulties, but we are actually winning over it. But certainly, combining the domain and technology together, even if you do 100 times in your company, if you take it to the market, you have to have some tests for you. I mean, those are there. I mean, anybody goes for that, they will feel that particular thing.
Sorry. So how do you kind of entice customers from a value perspective, right? And it could be in any of the segments as well. So whether Vivek, you talked about connected devices. So while how do you get people to pay that additional higher level of money for a particular service? I mean, I could any place and just switch it on, whereas you're providing a what do you entice people to pay?
So okay, so I'll give try and give a perspective, which is easier to understand for the general public. For example, I have a water purifier system, high-end water purifier system, which we sell to consumers. Of course, it's high price. So, I have to, make all the efforts to, convince a consumer that, okay, I'm going to give you a water purifier, which is, IoT connected. But what is going to do for you? So I try and sell, those positives to him, and he buys it. But exactly, what is the value proposition that is going to him? Okay, so he can buy a service package, okay, which comes with complete predictive maintenance. It will tell him, what time his water filter, his filter is going to go off, and there will be a call to him prior to that to replace that, so he doesn't need to, actually call when he tastes the, of water which is not good, and then he calls. So that predictive maintenance is going to come to him. And there are other, benefits. If there is the water purifier is diagnosing that is going to a diagnosis mode and saying that it needs service and very soon. So there will be a call back from the service center to the owner that it needs maintenance. So we'll come tomorrow to fix it up. So always, normally my AMC would be, let's say, for X amount, I can charge 30, 40, 50% extra for him. So that's how I'm creating an additional value stream on my existing product. So I just give you example of water purifier. It could be there with or the other IoT products like water heater or AC that I'm already selling in the market. So that's how I see additional value streams coming in from my connected devices.
And from a technology partnership perspective, how do you see role from a technology companies to come in, and do you see a opportunity where, because globally what we've seen is companies migrating from a particular line of business to a completely different line of business, building partnerships, right? For example, a Shell, which is known as an oil and gas company, is talking about becoming a large electricity utility kind of organization. So that's a huge transformation. And at the same time, so there is a partner and a network that they're building. So it is moving from a a transactional relationship between a customer and a technology partner to becoming a co-creator. And there is some give and take in terms of risks, mitigation, and all of that. How do you see that space emerging as far as India is concerned? While there's been a lot of discussion, people are still kind of on both sides, right? People have been edgy. So yeah, just again, open to people who want to kind of talk about your experience.
Can I say
Please go
something
ahead.
here? See, Rajesh, we are let's say 37-year-old company. So we have our machining lines. I mean, some are with latest technology with IoT features inbuilt in them. But we also have machining lines that are of some vintage. And how do you use this new age technology? How do you sort of adopt these new age technologies in those machines so that you can derive the same kind of value for the customer? Initially, when we started our manufacturing operations, I will just give you one more example. We had manual, spot welding for the body in white. But nowadays, all these spots are welded automatically. Let's say you have 3,500 spots per body shell, and you produce 16 lakh vehicles annually. So how do you ensure that each spot is of a particular strength so that the occupier of the car is safe in case of an unfortunate accident? So the conventional method of ensuring the spot strength is to do a sample check, which is a destructive test. And the latest method is to not go for sampling check, go for 100% check, but using a method which is non-destructive. So 16 lakh vehicles, 3,500 spots per vehicle. Each spot has a unique ID, because when you collect data, it has to be married to an ID. So that's the kind of data we are talking about. And this data per se has little value unless the equipment or the system is intelligent enough to sort of plot that data in a particular format and infer something out of that data so that a decision can be taken by the system to either stop production or to do auto correction. See, whenever you have automation, the inherent problem with automation is that unless automation is intelligent, unless it is sort of autonomous, there is a possibility that you produce a large number of defectives if something goes wrong. So unless the automation is intelligent enough to detect an abnormality, and as a first step, prevent the production of large number of defectives, I mean, that would be the first step. As a next step, you want the system to be intelligent enough to not only detect an abnormality, but to correct that abnormality by itself, so that you do not need a human intervention to correct that abnormality. So that's the kind of opportunity we have in any manufacturing setup. When you are going for a fresh capex, you can buy any kind of technology you have. But in a sort of older line, you have different varieties of machines and different makes of machines. Not only we need support from the people who have the technology, for example, people who can supply machine vision equipments, but we also need the services of integrators who can marry that technology with the existing system. Now, the core of the technology, as Jaishankar was mentioning, the core knowledge about the product that we are making will still remain with the manufacturer. So the service provider, the connectivity solution provider, will have to understand the requirement of the manufacturer, and then co-create a solution which ultimately leads to some kind of value addition for the industry. So that is my take on it.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely right. So there, Mr. Roy, there are. That's. I mean, I would just. It's very exciting to see that the kind of problem you're talking about, especially in the welding area, and we see these kind of problems are there in the industrial sector quite a lot. Actually, in the sector that we also are in the discrete manufacturing, I've seen the same problem in the oil and gas as well in the fabrication yard, and people are trying to do a different types of. It's not that how do we look at the welding, the strength of the welding by different ultrasound testing or with the non-destructive testing actually. So maybe some other day we can talk about all those. Having said that, I know the time is very limited, Rajesh. I just want to take up just one of the points, which is I'm not a nationalist, but at the same time, I must talk about it. That, if you look at, we talked about innovation a little bit, not too much. We talked about Industry 4.0. Industry 4.0 came in the market in 2012. When AI was not so much commoditized today. If you look at the framework of Industry 4.0, it is all about connected machine. There was no connected worker. I love to see when IBM presented, the first was a connected worker. In fact, one of the papers that I've written is exactly on that. It is not about its 4.0, 4.x. We have already come to. Right? Let's not look at 2012 framework, and we can actually do a lot more on that. It's 4.x. It's not 5.0. Right. Let's have something new from our side as well, from the industry point of view. Let's not just say that 4.0, 4.0. It's passe. That's one. The second point I just want to talk about just before we just leave it here. I mean, after you. One of the points we are talking about a connected service. Now, if you look at the recent threat that we have seen in the geopolitical arena, that connected service also internet, right? Or some networks, of course. So if the network is down, what will you do? Can we deliver satellite? I mean, internet on satellite. I know that SpaceX is working on, Jeff Bezos is working on, he has committed $10 billion. Where are we in that? Don't we know that this is a huge problem for the world? What are we doing from the industry point of view, a forum point of view, government point of view, companies point of view? Where are those? So I just leave it there. The connected service, continuity of that, future of that, depending on how much future we are looking into, not only what we are doing today and leveraging on that and cashing on that just to make money. Yeah, please.
Yeah. So, yeah. It was quite engaging, and we are actually up on the hour, more than 20 minutes, almost half an hour across our time. So thank you all so much for your time on this. I'm sure it has actually opened up newer avenues, thoughts around what can be done. And I'm actually looking forward to kind of working closely with all of you to see if there is, we can propagate this thought process. And because government is also pushing really hard to, evangelize Industry 4.0 and industrial automation at scale. Just to wind up, I think it comes back to a point where, which Arvind Krishna, our CEO, talked about, saying that every company, will become a technology company, or every company will become an AI company. So I think that's the gist of it. It was at some point in time, we talked about every company becoming an e-commerce company, and that's a reality. So I guess that's where we kind of do it. And I think the people on this panel, thank you so much for all the rich thoughts, experiences that you actually brought to the table. Really honored to be part of this.
Thank you, Rajesh.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you everyone. All the best.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Sir, you are on mute.
I'm sorry.
अरे no problem, sir. हमने आधा घंटा extend भी किया लेकिन
I'm sorry. I got a call and then.
हाँ तो नहीं हो जाता है. But what I request is कि I would be bothering you again for another webinar. We are planning something for the sector itself.
Sure. Sorry for today.
No problem, sir. Looking forward, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thanks.